All right, if you're getting ready for a senior DevOps interview, you already know the questions are going to get a lot harder. We're not talking about textbook theory today. Nope. We are diving straight into the real-world, nitty-gritty challenges in Azure pipelines and observability, the stuff that really proves you've got that senior-level experience. Let's jump right in.
This right here, this is the core question behind almost every tough DevOps interview. It's not just about, hey, can you make a pipeline run? It's about making it solid, making it robust. So how do you actually prove you can do that? Well, let's start with one of the biggest and most common tripwires, managing secrets.
Okay, so every single pipeline has to deal with sensitive stuff. API keys, database passwords, all of it. A junior engineer might just stick them in as plain variables, but a senior engineer, they know that how you handle these secrets says everything about your security-first mindset. And you better believe interviewers have specific questions to test you on this.
And here it is, the classic curveball. They're not just asking how you store a password. Notice the wording, version control secrets. They want to know how you manage the entire life cycle of a secret securely in a way that's tracked and auditable. Your answer to this one question can honestly make or break the whole technical discussion.
So let's just look at this comparison. It's like night and day. On the left, you've got the risky way, in-pipeline variables. Anyone with pipeline access can see or change them, there's zero version history, and they're just waiting to be accidentally leaked in a log file. But on the right, that's the pro move. That's the industry standard they want to hear about, integrating with Azure Key Vault for centralized, secure, versioned management.
So the killer answer is this two-part solution. You use Azure DevOps variable groups, which are awesome for sharing values across lots of pipelines, and then here's the magic. You link that variable group directly to your Azure Key Vault. The secrets themselves never leave the vault. They live there all safe and sound, versioned, with tight access control. The pipeline just securely fetches them right when it needs them at runtime. That is how you version control secrets.
All right, let's keep building on this. We've locked down the pipeline security. Now let's make it smart and efficient. Mono repos, where you have a bunch of different services all living in one single repository, are super popular. But wow, do they come with their own CI/CD headaches.
And here is the million-dollar question for mono repos. It's a huge deal. If a developer pushes a tiny change to just one microservice, you absolutely do not want to waste time, compute, and money rebuilding every single other service. So how do you get that surgical precision?
The answer is actually so elegant. Path-based triggers. It's a multi-pipeline setup. First, you have a root pipeline that's set up to exclude all the microservice folders. Then, each individual microservice gets its own dedicated pipeline file, and each of those is configured with a path trigger to only include its own folder. What's the result? A change in the service-a folder only kicks off the pipeline for service A. It's simple, it's efficient, and it is a seriously impressive answer.
Okay, next up, let's talk about how to stay DRY. And I mean, don't repeat yourself. As your pipelines grow, especially when you've got dev, QA, and prod environments, you'll find yourself doing a lot of copying and pasting. There's a much, much better way to live.
I mean, we've all felt this pain, right? You build this beautiful deployment pipeline for dev. Then you copy-paste it for QA, and you do it again for prod. They're like 95% the same code, but now you have 3 massive, bloated files to maintain. And when you need to make one small change, you have to remember to do it in all 3 places. It's a total recipe for disaster.
And the solution? The hero of this story is YAML templates. Just think of them as functions for your pipelines. You take all that common repetitive logic, like the build steps or deployment tasks, and you pull it out into its own separate template file. You define it once, and then you just call it from your main pipelines, passing in whatever's different, like the server name for that environment. And just look at the payoff here. It's incredible. Before, you're wrestling with these huge, almost identical files. After templates, your main pipeline becomes tiny and easy to read. It basically just says, hey, run the deployment template for dev, and then run the same template for prod. All the complex stuff is centralized. It's clean, it's maintainable, and it screams senior-level thinking. So we've built a pipeline that is secure, efficient, and super maintainable. But our work isn't done just because the code is deployed. The final frontier, what really separates a senior engineer, is true observability. Deeply, deeply understanding how your application is behaving out there in the real world. This question is a gateway. They're testing you.
They want to know if you're stuck in the old world of just basic monitoring, or if you really get the modern cloud-native observability stack. Your answer here should be a confident tour of the Prometheus ecosystem.
So this is your go-to answer. Prometheus is the brain. Its main job is to pull or scrape metrics from everything. Grafana is the dashboard. It hooks into Prometheus and turns all that raw data into these beautiful, useful graphs. Alert Manager, well, that's your pager. It handles sending out alerts based on rules you set. And then there's the secret sauce, the exporters.
This part is so critical to explain. Look, some things, like Kubernetes, are built to just naturally expose metrics in a way Prometheus understands. But what about your Linux server or your MySQL database? They don't speak Prometheus. That's what an exporter is for. It's this little helper app that sits next to your database, translates its internal metrics, and serves them up in the right format for Prometheus to come and grab them. It's the universal adapter that lets you monitor everything.
Phew, okay. We have covered a lot of ground. So let's boil all this down into a really clear, concise playbook that you can take with you into your next senior DevOps interview. These are the high-impact answers you absolutely need to have in your back pocket. So let's put it all together. When they ask about secrets, you're going to talk confidently about Azure Key Vault and variable groups. When the mono repo problem comes up, your answer is path-based triggers. For those messy, duplicated pipelines, you're going to champion YAML templates. And for Kubernetes monitoring, you're going to lay out the whole modern stack, Prometheus, Grafana, and exporters. See, these aren't just buzzwords. These are the proven, battle-tested solutions that show you've got real-world, senior-level experience. And that really brings us to the end. I mean, mastering the CI/CD pipeline is a massive accomplishment. But in the world of DevOps, it's just one really important piece of the puzzle. The true mark of a senior engineer is that they're always looking ahead, always asking, okay, what's the next problem to solve? What's the next bottleneck that's holding us back? Now, that's the mindset that's going to land you the job. Thanks for tuning in.